Fly ash, use of fly ash as a material, whatever you want to call it, is a very complex, multifaceted issue. There are economic concerns at stake here. There are environmental concerns at stake here. There's a wide variety of human health concerns at stake. And really the key, one of the key things to take home from my talk today, is it all comes down to water. When these materials come in contact with water, bad things can happen.
The EPA's latest risk assessment of coal combustion waste, which came out in January of 2007, this year, I quote, "Drinking groundwater contaminated with arsenic from CCW surface impoundments can be as high as 1 in 100, 1,000 times higher than the EPA's regulatory goal for cancer risks." That's the cancer risk for arsenic leaching from these sites. I'm not sure why you left that out. I know you must be aware of it. This is your profession.
Arsenic can accumulate in tissues, but it has to be the organic form of arsenic that accumulates in tissues.
It might not accumulate in flesh, but it makes you sick. I will have to say that.
Can arsenic bioaccumulate? It can, but certainly not to the degree that selenium and mercury does.
Well, apparently the latest EPA assessments think that it's pretty dangerous.
Are you talking about exposure to aquatic animals or drinking water?
Oh, this isn't humans drinking groundwater.
Okay, well, we're not comparing here leachate concentrations with the drinking water standard.
No, they're saying leachate from these sites, whether they're lined or unlined, can pose a risk that's 1 in 100. That's 1,000, 10,000 times their suggested level.
I'm sorry.
This is on the Federal Register, under their freedom, under their notice of data.
Right, I know that.
A lot of water running out right there. Here.
The meeting was consisted of supposed experts. However, at the question-answer session, after their presentations, there were so many questions they were unable to answer, and they actually did answer some questions, and the answers they gave us is what we've been saying. One of the experts specifically said, yes, leaching will occur. Yes, groundwater will be contaminated. It's a matter of time.
That would probably arrive within 6 months of time from the discharge to that groundwater table. There is going to be a mixing in the groundwater at certain depths and then move laterally and disperse transversely along the flow.
The leachettes will reach the water. That was disturbing to me.
And how often is that monitored?
What do you mean by monitored?
Groundwater monitoring.
There's no groundwater monitoring.
So you're telling us you've done this for 16 years and you don't even monitor the groundwater?
At our structural fill sites now. It's just something you engineer around.
There's been hundreds of studies published on this issue. EPA has studied it at length, and they continue to study it at length, and the National Academy of Sciences have as well. In 2005, there were 24 proven damage cases across the U.S. from coal combustion waste, and And this number is rapidly rising. I think there's around 65 other cases that are currently being examined. There are numerous cases where drinking water has been contaminated. In some cases, these are rather extreme. One right here in Virginia, the Chisholm Creek site, which is a Superfund site. 55 residential homes lost their water supplies over this one. Basically, their wells were contaminated to the point that they were no longer usable for any purpose. Well, the problem is when you mix ash with water, a lot of these toxic constituents can solubilize. They end up in the water. And selenium in particular is very, very soluble and very, very mobile. And it also bioaccumulates very well in animals. It accumulated in the female tissues, was passed on to the offspring, caused these developmental abnormalities, and resulted in complete reproductive failure. And ultimately resulted in local extinctions of these species. When animals come in contact with these coal combustion waste, these are salamanders that had come in contact. You can see a normal salamander here. I think, again, it's sort of washed out on the screen, but you would have toes here, obviously. On these guys, you see no toes. Basically, they've been dissolved by coming in contact with coal combustion waste. The main point that I want to point out is we're showing that frogs that inhabit areas that have been contaminated with coal combustion waste accumulate high concentrations of pollutants like selenium in their tissues, and then they can pass those contaminants on to their babies. They can pass that on to their eggs through this process that we call maternal transfer. And we see a 55% increase in the rates of malformations in these developing offspring, all attributable to exposure to coal combustion waste.
This is very bad engineering on your part.
That project was looked at. It was determined that this particular process, again, is in keeping with the requirements of the state of Virginia and will, in fact, do all that we can to protect the New River in that sense. And putting a liner, you might stop some leachate into the groundwater, but his 100-year flood issue would not be solved by a liner. So, you know, one person's answer doesn't solve another person's concern. I would tell you only that if we picked a different site, we would have a different crew of folks in here who are very emotionally concerned about it as well.